Hey, welcome into Boston has entered the chat. And if you love this show, thank you. But make sure you check out Hold My Banner, available on NESN as well. Ante Campbell and I preview the second half of the Celtics season. Check that out. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, George, let's get it started, baby. Boston has entered the chat. Ooh, ooh. Travis Thomas here with George Balekji. You know I had to give you some sort of sound effect to start the show, bro.
Hey, I love it, my man. I love it. Just unpredictable at every moment. So we're here. We're chatting, man. Yeah. And you know why I'm excited, T? We're talking a little F1 today.
Oh, that is right. I notice every now and again F1 makes its way into the show. And I love when it happens because, honestly, I learn a lot from you. So coming up, Pats Nation. You're not the only ones that believes in your head coach. Vegas does as well. We'll tell you what that means with Mike Vrabel. Plus, it's looking like the Bengals are going to franchise Tee Higgins, but don't panic. We'll look at some other stars that may bring their services to the Patriots, and we'll get the latest on the Charlie McAvoy injury as well. Here's a big thing about Boston has entered the chat. We tell you all the time, we are interactive, so please tweet at us using the hashtag NESN chat. You can also email us as well, the chat@nesn.com. But George, let's start here because you know me and you say I'm unpredictable, and you're right about that. But one thing that's very predictable about your boy is it always comes back to gambling. And I saw the odds come out for Coach of the Year for the NFL for next season. And looky, I have the odds right in front of me, George. Ben Johnson, okay, and Mike Vrabel are your co-favorites. Both of their odds, if you want to get in on this bet, because I'm thinking about doing this, plus 750. A lot of notable coaches after that, though, George. You know the names. Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, both at 12-1. Liam Cohen, that weirdo that the Jaguars hired. Dave Canales, Sean Payton, all like 14-1. So there's some guys on here. Dan Campbell, 20-1. But how about this? Mike Vrabel, the favorite. Are you surprised by this? Are you surprised that he and Ben Johnson are co-favorites? Like, where's your mind go when you hear these odds?
I'm not surprised by Vrabel being one of the favorites. Everyone knows when he's in the game as a head coach, he's one of the best at leading a team. It's also the landscape that he's given. Vrabel's really good. The Patriots have stunk. I think it's like simple storylines in a way. And if you get a team that just like literally looked like a junior varsity team from Western Massachusetts this past season, no offense to the people in the Berkshires. Love it out in that part of the country. Absolutely beautiful part of America. But when you look like a junior varsity team out from Western Mass, and he just gets some respectful looking. And if he gets them to 8 or 9 wins, they slide into that 7th spot. Yeah. That's a wild card, and they just get there. Then that would sure enough get him Coach of the Year, in my opinion. Look at the last 3 winners. Kevin O'Connell revived Sam Darnold and took the Vikings from 7 wins dealing with injuries at quarterback to 14 with Darnold. Kevin Stefanski, 4th in the division to wild card appearance. Brian Daboll, same thing, 4th in the division to wild card appearance. Yep. What do all 3 have in common? They found a way to win games when they were not expected to and take a team from low expectations to high. That's also what you get with Ben Johnson also being a favorite. If he just, I don't want to say salvage Caleb Williams because it's just like his rookie season. He didn't look great, but also he was given a tough hand with the structure around him. But if Ben Johnson makes Caleb Williams look like the #1 overall pick, you know, how like Cliff Kingsbury did it with Jaden Daniels, then that starts turning heads. And if that gets the Bears in the most competitive division in the NFL, yes, they went winless in the playoffs, but the most competitive division in the regular season, to finishing 2nd, maybe 1st, just getting to that wild card again, then that turns heads as well. But with Vrabel, the landscape's there. The coaching staff he filled out is fantastic. You have the franchise quarterback. You have the most cap space in the NFL. You have a top 4 pick. It's all there, you know, and this is a good number to get a plus 750 before free agency hits and say they get a big name, a starting left tackle. You're going to see that number shrink. If they do well at 4, say if an Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter fall to them, that number shrinks even more. So plus 750 is a good play, what you'd get for Mike Vrabel. And it makes sense too. Tie it all in, Trav. If he takes the winningest franchise in pro sports the last 20 years back to winning, he's going to get Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said from a Vrabel standpoint. I think it's going to be harder for Ben Johnson than you think. Here's why. You're right about the Caleb stuff, obviously. That's why he got the gig, right? He's a quarterback whisperer. He's supposed to be some genius. Okay, great. Let's see it. So, of course, Caleb's a big part of that. But I don't think that's just it. I think Chicago, that market, they have been yearning for a winner for a long time there. And I think that's a lot of pressure. I actually thought Vrabel was a good fit for that gig there. He just wanted the New England job, and we wanted him, right? But I don't know if a first-time head coach, man, coming into that situation, that's tough. That's tough sledding for Ben Johnson. Think about this. If the Patriots get off to a slow start, in Vrabel we trust. No one's going to panic. Everyone's going to be like, this team, let's give them time. With Gerard Mayo, we panicked, rightfully so. But with Ben Johnson, if they get off to a slow start in Chicago, they're going to be trying to run that guy out of there. There's no patience there. There's no, like, let's wait and see. Let's give him time. He's got to win immediately. I think that's a lot of pressure. If they stumble out of the gates, the price on Ben Johnson will change. If you still believe in him, I would say bet him then. If they go 0-2 or 0-3, I think Vrabel has a much better shot at winning this for everything you said. All you have to do is first, let's start here, present day, George. They have to have a great, not good, they have to have a great offseason. I think everyone can admit that, right? We can all agree on that. You got to fix the offensive line. You have to get some playmakers in here. Whether it's wide receiver, that looks like slim pickings. I don't know. Maybe it's a run game. Maybe it's tight end. You got to get some game changers in here, some guys that can make plays on offense. If you can do that, solid draft, I don't think it's far-fetched for the Patriots to be, and you said it, up near that 8-9 win sort of threshold. Hell, George, if Vrabel can get him there, he's going to win this award going away. I'll tell you a guy, it's not Ben Johnson. I gave you these odds. Sean Payton is a guy I'm looking at 14-1. 14-1. You say, what? Yeah. Well, the Broncos just won. Like, that would be hard for him. No. The Broncos now, George, are far removed from the Russell Wilson contract fiasco. I think now, being in a better cap situation, having a guy in Bo Nix going into year 2, much like Drake May, I could see the Broncos maybe taking a step up. That division's hard as hell, man, between the Chiefs, the Chargers with Harbaugh, who's on this list too. I gave you his stats. He's 12-1, 12-1 to win the award. But that is a really tough division outside of the Raiders, right? So I could see if the Broncos can get in there, mix it up. They're a playoff team again. Maybe beat the Chiefs, split with them in the regular season or something like that. I bet you Sean Payton wouldn't be a bad bet. But I think Vrabel's a bet to make here, George. I really do.
And even look at the Patriots 2025 opponents. Like, they have a really easy home slate. They match up with the NFC South. They get the Steelers at home. I mean, that's kind of a crapshoot. And even just think about how much the division feels like it's shifted. Where last year I would not give them a divisional win. I had the Patriots going 0-6. They could sweep the Jets. They really could if they get this defense right. And they can split with the Dolphins. I'm not going to get to the point where I can say they can split with the Bills, but also I give them the head coach advantage. I would take Vrabel over Sean McDermott. So it's not crazy to say. And I just found you 4 wins within the division alone. Get the Panthers at home. All right, that's 5. And I'm just talking home slate as it is right now. Then you mess around, win a few more games possibly. There's a Vrabel at plus 750. I'm going to go 14-1, but I'm going Dave Canales here. And again, let me look at storylines, right? Dave Canales took over a last place offense right before he got to Carolina and got him to respect, But if he takes that like bottom 10 offense now, gets him to just middle of the pack, maybe let's say top 12, but where that's a dynamic offense that's putting him in situations and winning them games. It also takes a quarterback in Bryce Young that was benched, is too small, was a bust. Everyone was willing to say this. And again, it's like the Sam Darnold effect. Makes him look respectable. Then Dave Canales surges up, and he's at 14-1. And this is a guy I'm big on. He resurrected Geno Smith's career. He resurrected Baker Mayfield's career. He can do the same with Bryce Young. They have the 8th overall pick. Their defense stunk, but there's a lot of good front seven players, especially on up front, where if they just simply improve the defense from allowing 6 yards of play, that just changes a whole dynamic on them. And that's the same thing. Their schedule is tougher. They match up with the NFC West this year and the AFC East, but that's a team that I 14-1. I saw Sean Payton too. I can see it. They made it to the wild card though. So what's the move from there? If they win the division, knock off the Chiefs, who knows what happens there? But also, I don't want to bet on a coach that's going against Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid twice a year. But in Dave Canales, I would go with a coach that's in the worst division in football, a wide open division, you know?
Yeah, no, you make great points. I mean, thank God the Panthers got hot at the end of the season. I had the Stones to start betting on them, George. They made me a little bit of scratch. So, listen, I told you it always full circle comes back to gambling for me. Just like with you, full circle, it always comes back to F1 racing, which we will talk in just a moment. But first, let me tell you about this great basketball show here on NESN. Hold my banner. That's right. And we're asking the important questions like, will the Celtics repeat and claim banner 19? Well, you can find everything about the NBA and its culture on NESN's basketball podcast, Hold My Banner. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, George, let's get into what's trending. 3 top stories that we love in the world of sports. 3 minutes on the clock for each one. I want to start here because I saw the Chargers were selected as the NFL's designated team for the second ever regular season game in São Paulo, Brazil, as part of the international games next season. So the Chargers getting involved here, George. My question to you, it's not going to be the Patriots that they play, but can we still just find a way to go there somehow? Can we just make an excuse to go to Brazil and watch the Chargers play, George? Can we make that happen? Will NESN send us to that?
You want to go to the place, and I'm sure like the people of Brazil and Sao Paulo are awesome people. You want to go to the place where they were like instructing the NFL players, don't leave your hotel room. I'll pass.
That's true. That's true.
You know what I want with this one, Trav? Take care of the field. Have it be suitable for your NFL players. Because when the Eagles and the Packers played out there, it was slipping, it was sliding. Philly escaped with the win, and Jalen Hurts after was like, this field was trash. So that's the thing. I like this pick. I like the Chargers going down to Brazil. I think that is big to have Justin Herbert down there. And I know it's not like a massive Brazilian population in California overall, but there are a lot of Brazilian people. A majority of the Brazilian population in California is in LA. I just think that's a good bridge there. You have a team that has a tie to that community, and it just continues to grow the game. I like this pick a lot. Put the Chargers to debut the season. I am a Justin Herbert guy. I am a Jim Harbaugh guy. Get a team that made a huge step forward last season. Get them kicking off the season in Brazil. I like this pick a lot.
Okay, well, let's talk about the possible candidates they could play. So this Brazil game, even though it's in Brazil, it's a home game for the Chargers. I have in front of me a list of the Chargers' home opponents. We don't know the weeks yet. Obviously, we know this game will be in week 1. But here are the possible options outside of their division. We know who's in the division. All right, stay with me, George. Texans, Colts from that AFC South, Eagles, Commanders from the NFC East, Steelers from the North, and Vikings from the NFC North. It feels like the Steelers, right? Steelers, Chargers, Brazil, or would you go Jaden Daniels maybe? You can't go Eagles back in Brazil, can you?
No, it won't be Eagles again. Give me Texans or Commanders. Give me the best quarterback matchup. Give me good offenses. I think it'll be Jaden Daniels. Why not? Why would you not have that? You know, if this is the standalone game, you know, first or second game of the season, depending where Brazil falls, compared to when they'll have the Eagles kickoff season, which will probably be, you know, them on Thursday night. But why not have Justin Herbert against Jaden Daniels? I don't want Justin Herbert against Russell Wilson. I don't care. It's the Steelers. I do not care. Okay. It's 2025. It's all about individual players. That's how it works this day and age. Give me Jaden Daniels against Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh against Dan Quinn. I think it'll be a really fun game to watch.
Oh, yeah, I don't hate it. I think you need to put a little respect on the Steelers fan base who travels wherever.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to put respect on Russell Wilson.
The NFL wants, well, he may not be there. Hey, it may be Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers might be the quarterback of the Steelers. What do you think about that, GB? A little Aaron Rodgers.
If he goes to Brazil, if he's going to Brazil, he's not coming back. Are you kidding me? He's gonna go to the I don't want to mix up countries. I think it's like Peru or the Mayan. I don't know. There's history in Brazil, and there are deep forests. That man is going to find the deepest hole in the rainforest to crawl into, and he's never going to dig himself out, and he's going to love it. Aaron Rodgers should not go to Brazil.
He out there licking toads, yo. Hey,
he is going to find his vice.
I just want to say for the record, I don't give a damn how many times you hit that buzzer. This is funny. All right.
It's Aaron Rodgers. We're going to make fun of him.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his representation have parted ways, and he will now serve as his own agent. This from Chris B. Haynes. All right, so listen, I looked into this, George. This is good business. SGA, who's definitely, I think even if he gets injured, I'm not even going to say barring injury, even if he gets injured, it feels to me like he's going to win the MVP. It just feels so inevitable. He is now eligible for a 4-year, $291 million Supermax from the Thunder, George. Why I think this is brilliant is because there's no negotiation. This is not Dallas, where they didn't want to pay this to Luka, so they shipped him off and the Lakers fleeced them, right? The Thunder will pay this man every cent of that contract, and he's well worth it. And they need to do it. They need SGA in Oklahoma City. So here's where I'm at. You're not negotiating anything, bro. So I'm not going to pay you your fee when you're not doing a damn thing. You're out of here. He kept his marketing team. He kept his marketing team. He didn't get rid of them. So I think this is just good business to save some money for SGA. Most agent fees are like 3%, 5% or up. I just think he's just trying to save some money here, George. I don't hate it. I think it's a good business move for him.
I mean, I just think it's brilliant. He's going to walk into that front office. Yeah. He's going to meet with them and go, I'm a top 4 player in the NBA. I have a Supermax on the table, and you're Oklahoma City. You're giving me it. Why give up 10% to an agent? Why do that at all? Whatever the percentage may be. Negotiate it yourself. And you know what he does? Hire a lawyer. Hey, look over this contract for me real quick. And then that's it. Boom. If anything, when this opens up, he could get another agent, and then he finds an agent that's good, but is saying, I'll take nothing off the contract. Give me 0% from the contract. I'll do the negotiation for you. I'll take care of everything. I'll look over the bones of it all, make sure it's all good, make sure it's a Supermax. I'll help you with this, and just don't worry about it. And then that agent has SGA, and then they figure out him with the marketing. I just think it's brilliant. He has all the leverage in the world. It's Oklahoma City. When do they have good teams, Trav? You have to go back to Harden, KD, Russ, when they're drafting. That's when the Thunder build up the team. They don't get players like him in free agency. He's not playing for the Lakers, the Knicks, the Heat. He's playing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is brilliant on his part. He literally has this franchise right where he wants them. And you know what? If I was them, he walks in before the door closes. I give him the sheet of paper. I slide across and go, there's the Supermax. Sign it. Don't say a word. Don't worry about it. We got you. Why would you not? He's one of the best players in the NBA.
You want to hear my theory that the Thunder are going to do?
What?
Right at the buzzer? All right, so hear me out. This team, I already told you, I think they're going to likely lose to the Celtics in the finals, but they're close. They're very close. You know what I think they're going to do? They're going to pay this kid all this money, okay? I think all these picks that they've acquired over what feels like 10 years, all these picks they've acquired, they're going to trade all of them. They're going to put together some crazy trade package and get Cooper Flag. And it's going to be SGA, Cooper Flag, and Chet. That's their big 3. And it's going to be a problem for the whole league. What do you think, George?
Hey, man, one way to make yourself loved by the fan base in Oklahoma, get some exciting whites. Just get as many exciting whites as possible. You cannot give me Cooper Flag and Chet, and you don't think I'm going to take it there. The silence from Travis is the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my life. Come on, bro. It's Oklahoma. Again, I've been to Tulsa. I've been to OKC. It's Oklahoma.
Now would be a good time to tee up George for our F1 What's Trending story. Here's George Balekji. George?
T, you know I love my F1, man. And one thing I love, it's just simple, the design of the cars. I'm a big car guy. Well, they debuted the liveries. Liveries is another way to say basically the design, the wrap of the cars. If you're watching, you see all 10 on your screen. Trav, I'm going to throw some your way. And we're going to do a little Wicked or Kick It. We're going to take a page out of your book for you and Ante from Hold My Banner, where you could catch that podcast wherever you get your podcasts, all NBA and Celtics. But we're going to go Wicked or Kick It. First up, I want to pull up the livery for Ferrari. Big year for them. They have one of the best cars on the grid. They have Lewis Hamilton making his debut, and they're doing a little, honor for Enzo Ferrari with this design. It's a darker red than we've seen. Look, HP, it's all about sponsors. They probably want the white for the blue to pop. I like it's pushed to the back. I love this one. Is this Wicked or Kick It for you, T?
I mean, this is wicked, bro. Listen, you had me at Lewis Hamilton. So, let's just be clear. It doesn't matter what my man is in because he the man. So I'm with it. I love this, bro. And now I can put a car to the face because I love Lewis Hamilton. Now I can put a car with it. I know exactly who I'm rooting for Formula E. I love it, George.
Hey, that just Scarlet from Ferrari is so iconic. I love majority of it being in this color. Don't love the white, but it's still Ferrari and it looks clean. All right, next one I got you. This is a lower ranking team if you're talking F1. This is the Oklahoma City Thunder to your Boston Celtics. Alpine with the blue and pink. What do you make of this one, T?
It ain't really, it's all right. I'm not going to go. Yeah, I'm not kicking it hard, but I'm not rocking with it either. So it's like kind of a fringe Wicked or Kick It, but I'm going closer to the Kick It. I just feel like this is like a little too loud for my taste, but I bet at nighttime it looks dope. But this right here in the light, it's not for me, George. Are you digging it?
You have a great combo with blue and pink. I just don't love it. I don't love it. I think you could have done much better with it. There's a lot of potential. It's just untapped. All right, here's my favorite one of the night. Let's go Aston Martin. Now, they have an iconic design to them. But you know what it was, bro? It was presentation. There were multiple artists that showed up, multiple ways to unveil it. What Aston Martin did is they had the singer Thames sing her iconic song Higher, unveiled the livery. There's a reason the image I poke you just see Thames front and center and the car in the back. They played the James Bond song. They unveiled the car, and then she just stole the show. 10 out of 10 how they revealed and debuted this livery. And for that reason, it's going Wicked. And it's Thames, bro. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you had me at Thames. In fact, move over Lewis Hamilton. This is who I'm rooting for. This team right here, the Aston Martin team, just because of Thames. Shout outs to her. I love it, George. Hey, you know what, man? You're making me a real believer, man. I'm all about Formula One now, bro.
Hey, quick last two. Visa, Cash App, Red Bull. They went all white. This one's great just because no one else has anything similar. Exactly. It pops on the racetrack. When I went to a race, it was actually difficult. The cars are so fast to tell Aston Martin from Mercedes. You can't mistake in Red Bull's Tier 2 team going all white. And then the final one, McLaren. This one is a Kick It just because this is the same design from last year. This is the best car on the track. They should get a World Drivers' Championship this upcoming season. And there's just zero creativity. I don't love the chrome. So this one's a Kick It. Last one. What do you think of the McLaren one, T?
I dig this. I actually like this color combo a lot, bro. I think this is fly.
Right.
These cars are really cool, man. I'm telling you, every time we talk this on the show, I like it more and more, and I find myself checking in on more races. So you have fully converted me, my friend. In fact, Aston Martin clearly found their star in Thames. Will the Patriots find a star who can make a splash, make a play? George and I will break that down for you next. But remember, you can enter the chat too. Whether you have a question about your favorite team, perhaps you need life advice, even if you just have something you need to get off your chest because you're ready to crash out, we're here for you. Tweet at us using the hashtag NESNChat. You can always email us as well to chat@nesn.com. We want to hear from you. All right, George, let's talk about some of these stars now. So reportedly, the Bengals are franchising Tee Higgins for the second straight season. I'm sure he's thrilled with that. But I'm looking around the league here at odds for these next teams, and the Patriots are involved in all these star players, next team odds. So we'll start with Myles Garrett. Right now, I mean, the Patriots are 18-1 to sign Myles Garrett. We know he told the Browns, I'm tired of losing. You guys are the Browns, and I'm Myles Garrett, damn it. Get me to a winner. So the Patriots are at least on the list here, 11-1. The favorites, though, George, Commanders, 3-1. Eagles, plus 450. Browns, 5-1. Good luck with that. Do you think it's realistic for Myles Garrett to come to the Patriots, or do you see one of these other teams like Commanders or Eagles getting it done?
You'd have to trade for the best defensive player in all of football, probably multiple firsts. You're going to have to pay him a ton. And he's not looking like he's 30, but eventually he's going to be an edge rusher that is 30 years and older. Again, all these positions except for quarterback have a very similar peak age. When it comes to edge rushers, cornerbacks, wide receivers, it's at 30 mark. I don't see Myles Garrett happening, and you see it reflected by them being tied for 11th longest odds on this one. Where it makes sense for him is a team that can capitalize, doesn't have as good of a first-round pick, and kind of situated their needs in a defensive-minded coach. I think that's why you see the Commanders as favorites. And then when it comes to the Eagles too, why not double down? All these draft picks you've had, you're going to lose Josh Sweat, which is very likely. Capitalize on your Super Bowl window. Go after a top free agent on the market at a top position, at a pillar position. They did it with Saquon. They did it with A.J. Brown. Why not do it with Myles Garrett, which doesn't just replace Josh Sweat. It makes your pass rush better than it was last year. And they can do this while they still have Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith under cost control contracts. So I just think Eagles make sense, as crazy as it sounds. But Howie Roseman, they're all about winning. So why would you not do that? I don't see the Patriots going for him.
Oh, bro, if the Eagles get him, it's gonna feel like the Dodgers who get everyone. You know what I mean? I can't have that, man. I can't have it. I'd rather him in New England, but I don't think New England's close enough to winning yet. I can see the Commanders, to be honest. How about Deebo? So for the Patriots, it's 10-1 odds for him, but the favorite, George, is coming back to the Niners at plus 250, Steelers plus 450, Broncos at 6-1. You think the Patriots have a shot here? Those aren't terrible odds, 10-1.
They have a chance. I don't want them though. It doesn't make sense. Yes, he's not yet at that old age for a wide receiver, but Trav, the past 4 seasons, he's averaging over 105 touches per season, and it's not just receptions where you go, wow, it's a really productive receiver. Kyle Shanahan was using him as a bruiser, downhill running back, and he's one of the best receivers after the catch. And the way he does that is running through tackles. That is a massive workload. That is not the normal workload wide receivers leave with, and a lot of hits that he's taking. For all those reasons, I wouldn't bet this at all. I don't like him as a match for the Patriots. For a team that needs to do right, and you have this money, you got to spend it in the right spots. Don't pay for a Deebo who I don't think will be very productive for them. And he had his worst season with San Fran. 4 drop passes, just didn't seem like the same Deebo he once was. I just don't honestly know where he ends up. I just don't want it to be New England, honestly, so maybe I'm projecting a little here. But I think New England thinks the same way. Just because you have all the money doesn't mean you just have to throw it at positions that are of importance. You're better off building a deeper room with less sexy picks, less sexy signings than a Deebo Samuel than you are to sign a Deebo and then you don't get the guys that could really make an impact, not this season only, but the seasons moving forward.
I agree, but for everything you said, but I think you left out a glaring omission. He's a pain in the arse. He complains, he mopes. I don't need that. I don't need it. I don't need you coming to my young quarterback, not berating him. It wasn't anything super disrespectful, but he's just very get me the ball, get me. It's one of the reasons I know A.J. Brown's a stud, but A.J. Brown drives me nuts with this. I don't need a Deebo wide receiver in my development of Drake May. When Drake May's a 10-year vet, I'd be like, go get Deebo. He can handle it. But right now, in sort of this embryonic stage of his quarterback development, the last thing I need is a damn Deebo demanding the ball when you're not even the same player that you once were. How about Cooper Kupp? Are you more interested in him? Broncos are the favorite here at plus 450. Lions plus 550. Patriots, though, right there, third best odds, right behind with the Commanders, plus 650. Who do you see Cooper Kupp going to? Do you like the fit with the Pats better with him than you do Deebo, George?
I actually like the fit with the Lions a lot. Now, yes, to answer your question, Cooper Kupp has to be right price. He's about to be 32. Yeah. He hasn't been healthy the last 3 seasons. He has massive cap hits. So if you're trading for him, there has to be a restructuring agreement. And if you're doing that also, what are you giving up? Is it a 4th rounder? Fine, I would take that. That's a guy that helps develop the young wide receiving group for the Patriots right now and makes them better pros 2-3 years from now. Just think of the trade cost of wide receivers around the same age. Amari Cooper to the Browns, that was a 5th and a 6th. Devontae Adams to the Raiders, he was 30. That was a 1st and a 2nd. Cooper Kupp isn't like what Devontae Adams was. Keep in mind, like everyone, well, it's Cooper Kupp. That was 2021. This is about to be 4 seasons later. So I like his fit with the Patriots, but he has to be one that wants to be humble. I think Cooper Kupp wants to win one more time. I think he wants to be in a fun environment, in a good offense. So at the point, it could be Broncos. I think he'd be a great fit there. That is go quarterback that can get you the ball. You know, I have my opinions of Bo Nix, but Sean Payton's getting the most out of him. That's a team that just made it to the wild card, elite defense. He'd be a good add, especially, again, if they only have to give up a 4th rounder. Broncos can do something, add another pass catcher at 20, maybe add to their defensive line at 20, and then build around Kupp and Bo Nix. And that, but so for the Patriots, don't love the fit, and I don't think it makes sense. Timelines are opposite in all this, man. It's just you got to think long-term with the Pats, where he's going to want to go to a more win-now, scenario. Commanders, Lions, Broncos, all that. Buffalo, I wouldn't rule it out that he lands in the AFC East.
Okay, some of those other teams, I can't argue. I would argue I don't think the Broncos are leaps and bounds better than the Patriots, George. I get the results for them were much better last season. But when you look at them on paper, I like Drake May more than Bo Nix, and I'm a Bo Nix guy. Their running game wasn't some dynamic running game, and they damn sure don't have any dynamic receivers. What they did it with was Bo Nix not turning the ball. They kind of had that old school formula, George. Bo Nix not turning the ball over. They played not good, great defense, and they just didn't turn the ball over, and they were well coached. Time management was managed beautifully. They made great decisions as a coaching staff, and they didn't beat themselves. And you look up, and it's a playoff team. So I actually think, Cooper Kupp could give the same benefits to the Patriots that you named that he would with the Broncos. If I'm Cooper Kupp, I'll be honest with you. I'm like, Bo Nix, undersized, wet noodle for an arm. He's accurate, but like this kid in New England, I mean, he looks like he was made in a lab. Get me to that guy. And then you're leaning, George, you're leaning on Vrabel and the brain trust to improve everything around you. But I think Cooper Kupp, out of all these guys we just talked about, Myles Garrett wants to win now, so the timeline is wrong. Deebo, I already told you how I feel about him being a diva. I think Kupp might be the best fit out of all these guys on the Patriots right now, George. I really do.
It makes sense for the Patriots end. I just want to backtrack and say you just said Bo Nix has a noodle arm. Are you kidding?
He does.
Me? Are you?
And I love him.
All you. Finally,
well,
all right.
That's not the argument. I never argued that. I said he's accurate and he works for Sean Payton's system. You told me he sucked. Your direct quote. He doesn't suck.
He does suck. But to that point, if you're also Cooper Kupp, Patriots, Cooper out of these 3 options makes the most sense. Yes. If you're Cooper Kupp, would you rather go to a team that just won 4 games or 10 and was in the playoffs? You're going to the game that won 10. You're going to the team that won 10. That's it. And you're going to Sean Payton. You're going to Sean Payton, one of the best play callers. Made Michael Thomas, at one point, the best wide receiver in the NFL, just running slants and do the same thing with an old Cooper Kupp. He looks sick in the Orange Crush uniforms, too. Come on. It's Cooper Kupp.
Who doesn't, bro? Those are some of the best unis of all time, bro.
Facts.
Well, you want the latest on the Patriots and the NFL? You want me and George to just keep yelling at each other? Well, in fact, we'll even tell you what Mike Vrabel and the Pats should do with the 4th pick in the NFL draft. All of that and more over on NESN's football podcast, Foxborough Rush. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, George, let's talk some hockey, shall we? Charlie McAvoy, we saw, got banged up in the Four Nations tournament. In fact, Brick talked about this on the latest episode of Hockey Hub. Let's take a listen.
You want the best for Charlie. You certainly want him back on the ice because he's critical to the Bruins and any level of success that they're going to attain before this year is over. But he needs to get healthy. It's first and foremost. So that being said, you know, you are so excited or anticipatory of what are the Bruins going to look like, the games leading up to the trade deadline, which path are they going to take based on the comments we've gotten from both the president and the general manager. Are they going to be sellers? You know, or do they feel like all we need to do is get into the dance, get into the tournament, and we can do some damage because we're going to get our other top defenseman back and Hampus Lindholm. We'll have McAvoy. We'll have something to prove. We know we haven't played up to our capabilities. We're letting down the Bruins organization as well as the fan base because we're not putting up wins. The last two games before the break were very disturbing because you had leads after two periods. You don't even get the games to overtime because loser points are critical right now if you're thinking about climbing back into the postseason mix. So the McAvoy situation has me very, very concerned about what this team's going to look like. That being said, you know, you look at all the underlying numbers, and they're not great. They're not great. You know, the numbers that really generally coincide with playoff teams aren't there for the Bruins. You know, and then when you start looking at, you know, the core group, the strength down the middle, you know, like, you know, Zacha and Lindholm are really good players, but are they a 1-2 center combination? You know, Charlie Coyle had a phenomenal playoff in 2019 because he was a third-line center. He gave you mismatches. He gave you dominance in those situations. That's when you know you have a good team. That's when you know you have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. So the things that you get a little concerned about, you know, the goaltending. Swayman, at times, he looked like he was getting back to form that he had last year in the postseason. He looked like that number one guy, you know, that $9 million goaltender. And then, you know, you get a little leaky or you give up some goals where you say needed a save there, even though it was a difficult save that was required. So goaltending, team defense, lack of top two defensemen available to you on your roster. Are you strong enough down the middle? Do you have young, exciting, fast, skilled talent enough to support in a third and fourth line situation? All those things have the Bruins fans concerned when you think about what's going to happen between now and March 7th. And the needle all seems to be pointing to, especially with the McAvoy situation now, seems to be leaning towards, I think we need to start selling assets in order to retool for the future. You know, you don't want to give up on this season. You certainly don't want to give up trying to make the playoffs.
Wow. Brick gave us a lot to unpack there. So we bring in the big guns. Casey Hudson comes in and joins us to talk about this. I was shocked. I almost fell out of this chair here, but you two know I'm barricaded in with these tables next to me. But I couldn't believe hearing him say, listen, the Bruins should be sellers at the deadlines, Case. So we'll get to that. But let's start with the latest on McAvoy, what you're hearing. I mean, how big of a concern is this for the Bruins, truly?
It's a massive concern to an extent because the hard part is that we did just see McAvoy be out for a number of games, 7, I believe it was, specifically leading up to Four Nations. Then he makes this comeback, and as soon as he gets back on the ice, he's impactful. He's picking up points. He's helping with neutral zone play. George and I talked about it on Boston Has Entered the Chat the other day, and he's a key piece there. The hard part is that that's kind of where they've lost some of the battles in the neutral zone. So losing him is going to hurt in that aspect. Also, it's going to be the time frame. The biggest key here is the word infection that everyone's talking about when it comes to the upper body injury and adding to it. You have to be very careful with infection. Brick was talking about it earlier. So it's like, how many games do we have to weather without McAvoy? The one thing I will say is that there were some matchups, some notable matchups that the Bruins had where they pulled off some top wins. 7 games with McAvoy being out. 4 wins, 1 shootout going against the Senators, who we know are a very strong team, and they had some revenge that they needed to get back against this Bruins team after being beat by them just a few games prior. So they have enough pieces. We've seen some call-ups between Callahan. We saw some good things out of Wotherspoon, in my personal opinion. They might be able to do just enough, but right now they need every single point, so that's the biggest concern is, like, you don't want to be playing to get by. You need to be playing and knowing you can win.
Yeah, the big thing you think about Brick, for what Brick mentions, first off, fantastic beard by Andy Brickley. Like, taking full advantage of the Four Nations break everyone's getting. That probably took 5 minutes for him to grow it out. I think he looks sharp. What Brick mentions, in case you point out too, when Charlie McAvoy is missing 7 games, the Bruins go 4-2-1 over that stretch. Cool. Let's hold it down. Got it down. We're fine without Truck for a few games. But you haven't been with Hampus Lindholm since November. You're now without Charlie McAvoy for a very questionable stretch. And it's thinking about the stretch of games that they have coming out of the Four Nations. Send him against Anaheim. Let him take his time. Fine. Leafs, Islanders, Pens. You're barely ahead of the Islanders for that final wildcard spot, because you look at Detroit right now in the second wildcard spot, and 4 points separate Detroit from the Isles, who are just behind the Bruins. It's so tight, and that's what's tough. They're right there on the line of still in it, still could get in the postseason. You get in, anything can happen at that point. This team just hasn't been able to click yet. It's key guys being injured. It's figuring out Zacha playing with the other Elias Lindholm. It's figuring out your lines, all of this. It's just hard to see for Charlie McAvoy, and this all comes after, in case you point out, returned from injury, played almost 20 minutes against the Canadiens, laid out 5 hits, including one that should count as like 3, how he lit up Connor McDavid, where he's playing, ears pinned back and just going full on Charlie Mack on the ice. He's one of their best skaters. He is one of their best shot takers, and he's majority of his assists are the second assist. So it shows his vision and how he generates offense, not just leads to goals, but generates overall pressure in the offensive zone. He does so much, and that's the big thing. We could see Peake step up. We can see Carlos step up, but there's 173 in the entire NHL. That's what makes this injury so difficult.
Yeah, that's the painful point, because you said it. I mean, he adds to the assist column, whether it's primary or secondary. And then when you talk about the margin for the Islanders per se, or the tight race in the East total, the separation is depth scoring. And that's my concern when it comes to the Bruins. And you're talking about a defenseman and you're thinking, why are you talking depth scoring? That's usually your bottom 6. That's how impactful McAvoy is. And he does help start anchoring and generating and getting that offense going. So that's where the concern's really going to come in. We started to see some good things from the third line primarily heading into the Four Nations break, but this is where these young guys are going to have to step up and become that reliable depth for the Bruins team while Charlie McAvoy goes on this healing journey, and hopefully it's not that long. Again, the concern being the infection, how that can keep him out, but for the most part, Trent Frederic, he can't always end up being the physical guy on the ice. He's got to jump back in on some plays there. We saw some good connections between him and Patra. I like Wahlstrom. I think sometimes he takes a minute to get his rhythm, but speaking of the Islanders, he was a key contributor sometimes when the rest of the scoring was silent. He has some issues with turning over the puck, but other than that, the chances are there. So the potential and the talent, it's right there in the mix so that they can alleviate this void that's going to be missing McAvoy. Because like you said, only 173.
Well, Case, I mean, there's other fish to fry here with the trade deadline approaching. I actually see both sides of the coin, because some of me thinks, listen, yeah, it hasn't gone great, but you are in a wild card hunt here. So this is not the time to be sellers, so to speak. If anything, maybe you should add, especially with the injury concerns, add something and take a shot at this wild card race. Or, the other side of the coin, which we're hearing a lot of, which Brick alluded to, is sell off. You're not going to make the playoffs. So how do you sort of see the deadline playing out in terms of that case, in terms of strategy? How are they going to kind of approach the deadline? Do you think they'll be buyers, sellers, or will they just kind of stand pat maybe?
I don't think they're going to lean too heavy in one direction over another. And I say that because, one, Brick mentioned maybe the idea. He didn't say he didn't hear anything, but the idea of a blockbuster move in the summer, which, that's where you usually have a better idea of what's the big picture over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. I do think they can and should make a move. There's a couple of really solid centers that can help with that depth scoring we just talked about, that they can bring in at the trade deadline, be a spark and a momentum swing for this Bruins roster, especially if they do start trending in a healthier direction. Because something else to keep in mind is that they can kind of finesse and play with who they bring in a little bit if they're okay with getting their money on the back end. We've got a 5% increase going on the cap for the NHL coming up this summer. So if a guy can come in almost on a sweetheart deal, start low, work high, then they can get a pretty decent center. Some names being kicked around out there is Braden Shin, Dylan Cousins. McCann's not a center. He's a left wing, but again, somebody who can come in here, He has consistent point production, but they just need somebody else who's going to add to the scoring because Pasta's crushing it. It's amazing. But if every game is reliant on Pasta continuing his point streak, this is going to be a dangerous situation. And then you're talking big picture. Let's sell. Let's focus forward to the next 2, 3, 4 seasons ahead and not worry about the wild card spot now because the race is too tight. Bruins have a game in hand on a number of teams as well. Something else to keep in mind when it comes to these points. And they're currently tied with the Columbus Blue Jackets as they come back from the break.
There's that other side where they walk it too. Just look at the team that's right ahead of them in the Red Wings. It's Lucas Raymond. It's Mo Seider. Those guys are in year 4 of their career. Obviously, Dylan Larkin is their best player, and he's a vet at this point. You just see these teams where all of a sudden the Red Wings are in the mix, and you're going, how? It's a young talent coming through. I don't like the Red Wings recipe to get into the playoffs because of how long this rebuild took, but you just see the value of first-round picks. Obviously, the Bruins got one in the Linus Ullmark trade. But now the Senators, look at where they are in the playoff standing. It's not as high of a pick as it normally would be when you get one from the Sens. It's such a damn if you do, damn if you don't. There's two sides to it every which way. And we're in Boston. Playoff hockey matters. Playoff sports matter. And when a team's in the mix, you get in that building, you get on your home ice, a lot of crazy things can happen. So that's what's tough every which way. And you see the flexibility in this roster. But this is a team that, yeah, they can hit that like a soft reset. Some teams can do that. You don't have to go full-on rebuild mode and hit rock bottom for a few years. No. You could do that soft reset. You're still competitive. You just got to reset the roster and refigure where you guys are paying, where the vets are, and also the young talent shining through, which really at a point where the prospects have to come up for the bees and make an impact.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by, like, I'm not leaning heavily in one or the other. I don't think it should exaggerate, so I agree with you 100%. A soft rebuild. And they have the tools. Some of the young guys have shown just enough, and you don't want to completely mute their development by bringing in, other people and just kind of, like, pushing them out of the mix. You've got to take that risk and allowing them to find their footing and get those reps in. And you talk about the Red Wings. I mean, it's the margin here yet again. Red Wings aren't that great defensively when you really think about it. They're a team that lets up a number of goals, but they can put up a lot of goals. They're a team that can kind of be pushed out of the way, but the Bruins have to protect their third period play. I mean, how many games leading into Four Nations did we see them let up 2, 3, 4 goals in the third period? So that defensive structure is going to matter. If Lindholm can get back in there, that's going to apply a level of comfort to Swayman. I love that Brick mentioned that he feels like Swayman being around these other best of the best in Four Nation might bring his best play once he gets back. And he's going to have to do that, but they're going to have to solidify what that back end looks like because the communication changes between defensemen and goalies if there's a lot of change up or call-ups or restructuring your deep pairings, and that's going to cause the Bruins to kind of backtrack in terms of competing for any spot in the wild card.
Case, I caught the hockey Holy Ghost when you said Swayman could come back and play better after this because, listen, that's exactly what it's going to take. In fact, I want to ask you this now. After watching the first half of a season, it hasn't gone the way all of us thought it would or hoped that it would. What can this hockey team do in your mind to right the ship and get into the postseason and get one of these wild card spots? What do the Bruins need to do wholesale in terms of improving and getting there?
Wholesale in terms of like bringing somebody in or the unit we're working with now?
Whatever. Just get me to the postseason. You tell me the blueprint.
Get you to the postseason. The recipe for the Bruins getting into the postseason. Pasta comes back on that point streak.
Okay.
We see Wahlstrom help with the depth scoring because he really does have to get there. Geeky gets back into prime form. We saw some passes not really connecting between him and Pasta anymore. He was kind of getting in his head about it. So we're thinking, okay, you got a little bit of a break. You're practicing now, no pressure. You know you're capable of doing it. You've been that key guy for goals in clutch moments. So we got to get that chemistry going again. But I'm going to come back to depth scoring every time. And I'm thinking Marchand's going to be on a high coming out of this whole Canada versus USA. He's been somebody you can tell has just been soaking in the experience, playing with the best of the best, and he can come back and contribute. His points were looking good leading into this. So depth scoring's got to come in hot, and then the deep pairings just have to figure out in front of Swayman. They have to be consistent, even if they have to stick to more of a defensive-man structure, because Swayman's going to be on fire. He has the capability to do so. We've seen the ninja plays, but third period lockdown, depth scoring, and Swayman coming in hot, that's how you get to the playoffs.
Well, from
yeah,
your
Bruins
lips,
had one goal their last 10 games from the bottom 6. Like you have to generate the shots and the points at that point. So definitely, it's everything with this team. When you're that close to the line, it's winning within the margins and it's generating those more opportunities within the bottom 6 of this roster. You got to hope, like a guy like a Matty Patra. You talk about the younger prospects, the guys that are developing case. Like you hope a Patra could step up.
Yeah, and we started to see him find some confidence. I mean, he had a nasty pass to Trent Frederick to help Frederick score a goal. So the possibility is there. It's just hoping that they can string it together more consistently, because that's been the theme. I mean, look at playoffs, especially Stanley Cup finals per se, like Panthers, their bottom 6, like even though their top 6 were hard to compete against, their bottom 6 were getting in those clutch moments. And that's where the scoring has to come in. Same thing with the Oilers. Bottom 6 guys were getting their hands in good positions to find the back of the net so that they can keep in any sort of compete. So that's where the Bruins can really level up here, because I trust Swayman to take that next step. If Lindholm can make an appearance here soon, that's going to give Swayman another level of confidence, because the play in front of him is going to settle down. That depth scoring has to come in, because you can't put it all on the top line, let alone the top 6.
Hey, from the both of his lips to the hockey god's ears, I hope they hear you and the Bruins right the ship and find a way to make the postseason. We want to hear from you all. Tweet at us using the hashtag NESNChat, or you can email us at chat@nesn.com always. How do you think this team needs to improve? What do they need to work on to get them into the postseason? For Travis Thomas, Casey Hudson, and George Balekji, thank all of you for rolling with us inside. Boston has entered the chat. Until next time, when we ask you to enter it again with us, peace.